You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Okay, we're going to get started for Town of Branford Board of Finance regular meeting, September 29th, 2025. First on the agenda is to approve minutes of the August 25th, 2025 meeting.
I'll move it. I'll second it.
Been moved in second. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to note that Yvette Laurie is on the phone. She's out of the country and participating via telephone.
Thank you, Joe.
Next up is citizens communication. If there's anyone who would like to address the board with regards to any agenda items, they're welcome to do so now. Okay. Oops, yes.
I just want to address
Josh, if you want to come up to the desk here.
but I will.
Sure.
I just want to address number 11. I think this is I think we did a lot of work in the study with the Board of Ed, the Selectman's Office, Jim Finch, yourself. And so I think item number 11 is to continue on that work. So I think we as a community need to show support to continue that process. So I urge you to approve that number 11.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments with regards to the agenda items? Okay, if not, we're going to move to item number 3, which is to hear presentation for fiscal 24 audit by Clifton Larson Allen, and we have the partners here. Let you introduce yourselves. And
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Rosito. I'm a principal at Clifton Larson Allen. I was the principal on the audit the past couple of years, and this past year I am retiring at the end of the year, so my counterpart, David Flint, is going to take over going forward.
Good evening, everyone.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we have a little presentation to go through for you this evening. I'm going to start with an agenda. So we're going to go through the terms of the engagement, an executive summary, some financial highlights. We're going to go through both the federal and the state single audit. We did issue the town and management letter for 2024. And then finally, governance communication and some upcoming GASB pronouncements. So the terms of the engagement, basically, what did you hire us to do? So first and foremost, express an opinion on whether the basic financial statements are presented in accordance with GAAP. We also expressed an in relation to opinion on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and as well as the schedule of expenditures of state financial assistance. Also expressed an opinion on compliance related to major federal award programs and major state award programs. We provide a report on internal control over financial reporting in compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. This is more commonly referred to as the Yellow Book letter. And then finally, provided a report on internal control over compliance as it relates to major federal award programs and major state award programs. So the executive summary. So how did you guys do? So for the financial statements, we had an unmodified opinion issued on the financial statement. Unmodified, of course, is the best opinion that can be received. We did have a finding reported on internal control over compliance for basically the financial statement close process, just due to the timing of when the report was issued. Moving on to the federal single audit. Also, we had an unmodified opinion on the major federal programs. There were no compliance findings, but we did have a significant deficiency in internal control over compliance. Basically, this related to making sure that vendors were not suspended or debarred before contracting with them. This has since been remediated by the town. Moving on to the state single audit, we also had an unmodified opinion on the major state programs. No compliance findings or significant deficiencies in internal control. Just some high-level financial highlights. So here you'll see what's basically the balance sheet for the town. This is performed on the full accrual basis of accounting, which means it includes both your capital assets as well as your long-term debt. You'll see total assets up above of $386.4 million, total liabilities of $150. You'll see down below is your net position. The majority of this is your net investment in capital assets, which is basically your capital assets less any debt used to acquire those. Basically a good indication of how leveraged your capital assets are. We also have restricted net position. The majority of this is restricted for future capital projects, but there's also $14 million in there, which relates to the OPEB trust fund asset. And then everything left over is your unrestricted net position, which is $49.1 million. Moving on, this is your fund financial statements. This is the modified accrual basis of accounting, which is no long-term debt, no capital assets. The town has three major funds: your general fund, your capital projects fund, and your ARPA fund, and then all the other small funds are aggregated together into the non-major governmental funds. You'll see for the general fund for the year had a surplus of $11.5 million and ending fund balance of $68.2 million. The capital project funds had a small surplus of $356,000 with an ending fund balance of $19.7. Then your ARPA fund, which revenue in that fund is recognized as it's expensed. So there is no we don't typically see a surplus or deficit in that fund. We also don't typically see a fund balance. And then finally, the non-major funds aggregated together had a surplus of $3.1 million, bringing total fund balance at the end of the year to $22.2 million. So some more financial highlights specifically for the general fund. Revenues were $9.39 million over budget for the year, and expenditures were $5.64 million under budget. Looking at the long-term liabilities, net pension liability of $52.85 million. That decreased $1 million year over year. And then town also does have a net OPEB asset of $14.4 million, which increased about $0.6 million for the year. It's great to see that the town actually has a net OPEB asset. There were some subsequent events. If there's a significant event that occurs after the financial statements date, we are required to disclose those in the financial statements. So there are three that were disclosed. First, in October 2024, the town issued $18 million in general obligation bonds. The second one is in March of 2025, the Board of Finance and RTM approved a transfer of $8.5 million from the medical self-insurance fund to the general fund. Proceeds of $6.5 million from the transfer were appropriated for the police pension fund, with $750,000 going to Coastal Resiliency Fund. Additionally, the Board of Finance assigned a little over $6 million of fund balance, with $3 million set aside for potential losses for federal funding for the Board of Education, $1 million for medical rate stabilization, and the balance of a little over $2 million was assigned for capital projects. Moving on to the federal single audit, total federal awards expended were $8.12 million for the year. We did test two major programs, of course, the ARPA program, as well as the Education Stabilization Fund. As I mentioned before, we had an unmodified opinion, a major program compliance, but we did note a significant deficiency in internal control over compliance for suspension and debarment, as I noted before. The state single audit, total awards expended were $7.2 million. We tested four major programs: open choice, small harbor improvement projects, school-based health clinics, and child daycare. Unmodified opinion on major program compliance, and no internal control findings. We did issue a management letter to the town for fiscal year '24. The first and foremost is that the bank reconciliations at the Board of Education were not being performed timely, and in some cases were not performed until they were asked for as part of the audit. For education grants, there was not sufficient oversight over these Board of Education grants as far as the accounting goes for 6/30/2024. And then the final three are more best practices. First and foremost, cybersecurity is definitely a hot topic amongst municipalities, not only statewide but countrywide. We do recommend an annual vulnerability assessment, and there certainly is funding at the state level to help cover some of these costs. We also recommend that the town implement a fraud tip line, could be referred to as a whistleblower hotline, just an outlet for not only employees, but for citizens to anonymously report fraud if they do have concerns. And then finally, conflict of interest policy. Although one does exist, we do recommend that process be formalized and updated on a more regular basis. So we do have required auditor's communication. There's 2 of these, once at the beginning of the audit and once at the end. There are just a handful of things that we are required to communicate with you guys. So there are no new accounting standards adopted during fiscal year '24. The financial statements did include several significant estimates. Those included the net pension liability, the net OPEB asset, and the claims incurred but not reported for medical, heart, and hypertension, as well as workers' compensation. We had no disagreements with management. Management did not consult with other accountants. The completion of the audit was delayed, but there were no corrected misstatements or uncorrected misstatements. And we were independent of the process. So in the pipeline, we have 4 accounting standards to be implemented, 2 for fiscal year 2025 and 2 for 2026. For 2025, we have GASB 101 and 102. GASB 101 will take a deeper look into compensated absences and kind of require the town to accrue compensated absences that not only will be paid out upon termination, but also compensated absences that are vested that will not necessarily be paid out, but can be used during employment. Statement 102, certain risk disclosures. There's requirements to disclose certain concentrations. For example, if the town has a significant taxpayer, a significant expenditure within their general fund budget, things like that. If something is deemed to be significant, those are required to be disclosed going forward. And then in fiscal year 2026, there will be some slight changes to the financial reporting model. So we will see slight changes in formatting to the town's financial statements. And then in statement 104, some slight changes to how we disclose capital assets within those financial statements. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Any questions from the board on this? Yvette, any questions for the auditors? Okay, so thank you for your presentation. Just so that, again, just reminding the board that these auditors technically work for us, and so that I think we'll ask the finance department to follow up on the items in the management letter and work. I know we're working with the Board of Ed on some of their open items, as well as some of the other suggestions around cybersecurity, the fraud tip line, and conflict of interest. I think will fall back on the administrative side. So, if that makes sense, any other comments you'd like to make? Or?
Well, if we could be of any help with those, just let us know.
Okay. I think you did mention some training might be available for, was that the?
Number 2, yeah.
For the educational grants?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I know Blaze will link up with them, and if they're offering some training that could be helpful for that, so.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vanessa. The pleasure, and best of luck in the future.
It's been a pleasure working with everyone at the town.
And, okay, David, look forward to seeing you
Yeah,
again.
nice meeting everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you,
great.
guys.
Okay. All righty, next up is item number 4, which is to consider and if appropriate, approve a transfer request from Parks and Recreation for various transfer for fiscal '25. So it's coming from regular wages and salaries, $17,132. Seasonal part-time, $27,320. Grounds maintenance, $1,300. Postage, $1,175. Office supplies, $1,085. Other supplies, $1,350. Equipment, $175. Furniture and fixtures, $2,762. And travel, $1,500, for a total of $53,799 going into accumulated sick, $93,36, overtime, $15,770, uniforms and clothing, $841, utilities, $25,020, and purchase services, $2832, for a total of $53,799. Welcome, Dale.
Good evening.
Good evening. A lot of moving around. This is for the
This is for the
fiscal
Parks and Recreation.
25.
Yes.
Yeah, last year. Got
Yep.
it. Okay.
So it's just to increase, to cover transfers for the accumulated sick time for the payout of the retired past director. We had some increase in overtime hours for various programs, for after hours, for cleaning of bathrooms in the various locations, increased uses of the community house, prepping and maintaining of athletic fields, special events, grooming of the town beach, trash removal on weekends. And then for the uniform and clothing allowance, it's increased per union contract, increase of the vendor service fees, and then our utilities is increased because irrigation of fields, increase of the usage of the splash pad, electricity throughout the parks, the garages, community house, and the service contract to the hospice pool had a slight increase.
So you've adjusted your 26 budget accordingly?
I believe when we did the 26 budget, we did adjust it for definitely the increase in the utilities for the water usage, yes.
Okay.
And I did adjust it also for the contract for the uniforms and clothing.
Questions? Dale?
I'll move it, Joe.
Moved by Jeff.
A second?
Deborah seconded. Questions, Yvette?
No, sir.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, you're all set?
Thank
I'm going to stay for the next one.
Number 5.
Fine. All right, number 5, to consider if appropriate, approve a budget transfer request for fiscal 25 for elderly services from regular wages and salaries, $48.54, into accumulated sick, $48.54. Go ahead.
So this is just to compensate for the accumulated sick time payout for the retirement of the past director.
Gotcha. Questions from the board?
I'll move it.
Moved by Jeff. Second by Harry. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right,
All
thank
set,
you.
thank you. Next one is number 6, consider if appropriate, approve a fiscal 25 budget transfer request for IT, from communications, $7,500, professional development, $1,200, for a total of $8,700, moving into regular wages and salaries, $4,700, other supplies, $3,000, and technology acquisitions, $1,000. Scott, welcome.
Hi, good evening. Basically, these are just to cover some, small overruns. I think the regular wages has to do with a little overlap. It was a director, the previous director and me coming on. And then this was, obviously, the fiscal year 25 budget was not developed by me.
Right.
I kind of came in the middle, so
Okay.
we had some cost overruns with supplies for toner, for printers, and things of that nature. So that's where these little overruns came from.
Sure. Okay, questions from Scott?
I'll move it.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Scott, while we have you here, there was a, part of the management letter was regarding cybersecurity. I don't know if I'll ask Jim to share that copy of
I haven't seen it
that
yet.
section with you, and maybe at some time in the near future, you can give us an update,
Absolutely.
okay?
Yep.
There's again, best practice recommendations from the auditors, okay?
Yeah, we received a grant last year that we're getting reimbursed for.
Okay.
And then there's another grant right now that the state has that we may apply for.
Okay. Yeah, and I think CLA can also provide some assistance, and they could help do some penetration testing and other types of things that might be helpful.
Yeah.
to get
Part of the
some-
grant, just so you know, is that we have to get vulnerability testing from the national, it's MSI-SAC, which we
Okay.
belong to, which is a state and local
Right.
cybersecurity organization.
Okay, good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. If you could follow up on that, that'd be appreciated.
All right, yep. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All righty, next up is number 7, which is to consider and if appropriate, approve a transfer request for Public Works for fiscal '25 from seasonal part-time, $21,377, from streetlights, $6,577, total of $27,954, moving into overtime, $21,377, and utilities, $6,577. Welcome, Gary, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, so as far as the overtime goes, we had some changes with mechanics roles, lead mechanics, some highway department changes also. So we needed to put out some more overtime to keep up with our projects and service our fleet, our town fleet, and our own trucks. That's including police also.
Right.
So that's the reason why we went over our overtime budget. And the utilities, of course, there was an increase. With the utilities, we absorbed some of the costs from the solid waste along with Public Works, and the one this past year, I don't think that put in enough to cover the regular increases on the utilities. So we adjusted it for this year, this coming year.
You should be okay for '26?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Questions from Gary?
Have you filled the positions of mechanics, or are you still looking?
Yeah, well, yeah, but now we have another retirement coming up,
Yeah.
so it just never stops.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll move it, Joe.
Moved by Jeff,
I'll second.
second by Deb, second by, I'll give it to Yvette for this one. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. You're all set, thank you. Next is number 8, to consider and act on the following proposed resolution. Resolve that the resolution entitled, a resolution amending a resolution appropriating $8.3 million for Main Street Road and related improvements and authorization the issue of $8.3 million in bonds of the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof of temporary borrowings for such purpose to increase the appropriation and bond authorization therein by an additional $6,750,000 and recommend the resolution for adoption to the representative town meeting. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
This is the Main Street,
Right, Main Street reconstruction project.
Main Street
This is the first one.
reconstruction, yeah.
So we did go out to bid for the Main Street project. We had some inconsistencies in the bids, so we did reject all bids at that time. We've since rebid the project and have received bids on that project as well, for this project. We're currently vetting all those bids at this point, but we're confident in the, just looking at the lower 3 bids that came in, on the number $15,050,000 for the total project cost. So that would be a local share at 1.175, which would include approximately $700,000 that we've gone through and designed for the project at this point. The additional monies would be more of a local contingency for any items that we feel should be included in the project, but DOT may not fund as part of the LOTSIP grant program. The DOT, as part of this program, does cover 100% of eligible project costs for construction. So this would be, say they come back at us and say, garbage cans and street furniture, they're not, an eligible cost. It's not part of the roadway. We understand all those things need to be replaced, so, we do put some contingency in there in the town as a local share that we'd say, all right, we want that to be part of the project, so, we're asking for the additional funding in that respect.
Okay. Jim, you got any input on this?
I think John's hit all the high points. In terms of the local share, we are planning to issue bonds in October, and that should pretty much take care of our local share in terms of the debt that the town would have to issue. The board may recall that a year ago when we had our bond sale, we had allocated some of the premium dollars to this project as well.
Right, right. So the total local share out of the 15 million?
1550.
1550. And that's based on some of the new bids that have come in?
Right, so we're basically looking at, the low three, which are all pretty close together. We feel confident that one of those three would get the
Fall into that.
award. Yep.
Yeah, and our local share would be between $1 million and 1.175.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Questions from the board on this?
John, how many bids did you get? New ones?
This last time was 6 bids.
They were all new contractors, or were there any repeats from the original
We had repeats
process?
from the original bid, yep. Yeah, we expected that. I mean, we would hope so. They would try to get the project, so, yep.
So do we want to waive me reading of the full resolution? If that's, or I'm happy to read it.
I would move the resolution as presented in the agenda tonight.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion? Questions? What's your timing on this?
Based on the fact we had a rebid, and we're obviously up against winter months coming sooner than later, so we'd be looking to hit this hard in the spring, as soon as the weather would allow.
Yeah. And how much more work utility work has to be done downtown now?
So right now, they're at the, Town Hall Drive. That's the second out of 3 spots that Frontier has to relocate their fiber optics. What's taking so long is that they have to keep all that live, because, everything
Right.
depends on the fiber, so. So it's taken a while at that location there, and then they have one more, I believe, around Vito Street. So they anticipate completing by the end of this calendar year, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All set, John, for that.
I just noticed Yvette has a nameplate, I like that. That's
Yes, she's out of the country,
Yep.
but participating.
great.
Okay, let's see what we got here. 8, oh, that's right. We have, John's up again, number 9, to consider and if appropriate approve the following transfers and resolution from the Finance Director for fund balance classifications to finance 2 engineering projects. And the first one is the Stony Creek Wharf. Project will be funded through a grant from the Connecticut Port Authority's Small Harbor Improvements Project Program for $800,000. The balance or the local share will be funded through fund balance. There's a transfer request for fund balance brought forth at $200,000, and the transfer out of $200,000 to the special fund. And then the second half of the approval would obviously be within the Infrastructure Enhancement Fund. Transfer in at $200,000, recognizing the revenue of $800,000 from the state, and the increase of the capital, authorizing the expenditure of $1 million. And so, before I read the resolution, do you want to just give us an update on that?
Sure. So we did apply for and received another SHIP grant. Last year we received a SHIP grant, or I say the last SHIP grant we received was for the Branford Point dock repairs. So we replaced all that. As you're successful with that, we decided to apply for the Stony Creek Wharf repairs, which would be the wooden wharf section, kind of continuation of the rehabilitation of that wharf. So we did the concrete ramp a number of years ago. This would continue on to the wooden wharf section of that, the town dock, as well as some of the floating docks and some of the gangways that are out there. So the grants that we received was for $800,000 with a local match of $200,000. It's an 80-20 grant, so the total appropriations would be $1 million.
And for those, I believe you did forward us some good information, the study of the current existing conditions with regards to the wharf. I don't know if you get a chance to take a look at it, but it's a pretty extensive study they did in 2022, and that's, but these estimates are still appropriate.
Yeah, it's yet to be seen if lumber is going to be, see an increase, but, we won't know until we get bids in.
Is this a proportionate share, 20%? Is that a proportionate share with a state grant, or can you go back and increase the state participation if need be?
We haven't had to for this grant. I mean, this is the second time we've received this grant.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if we can go back. I know certain programs like the STEEP grant has not allowed that.
Okay.
In the past, they would if there were, over appropriations for other projects that, that money would be sent back to the pot and they can reallocate that money. I know STEEP has stopped doing that as a practice, so
Okay.
I'm not sure about this one, though.
Okay. Questions? So I will resolve that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM an increase in appropriation for the fiscal 2025 general fund budget from $144,182,612 to $144,382,612. This increase will be funded through an appropriation of fund balance and will be used to supplement grant for the Stony Creek Wharf project.
I'd like to move for that as somebody who uses it often, and it does need the help.
All right, so Yvette has moved that. Somebody want to second it?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Jeff. Thanks, Yvette. Is there any further discussion or questions from John on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You voted in favor of that, Yvette?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hit the unmute quickly enough.
That's
Aye.
fine, we got it. Okay, counted as that. Next one up is the town center sidewalks. This project will be funded through a grant from the state's Small Town Economic Assistance Program for $1 million. The balance, or a local share, will be funded through fund balance. Again, a transfer of $200,000 from fund balance out to the Infrastructure Enhancement Fund. Operating transfer in of $200,000, local match, $1 million, recognizing $1 million to state grants for a total of authorization for expenditure of $1.2 million. John, you want to give us an update on that one?
Sure. So I'll start off in my letter. I did have a little discrepancy. I had that we had a grant awarded for 1.2. It's actually $1 million. You read it on the record correctly. So we did apply for and received a STEEP grant for the $1 million with a $200,000 local match, so a total of $1.2 million. These are sidewalks that are ancillary to Main Street, so we figure as soon as Main Street is completed, we're going to be left with these side streets that are a little unsightly in some areas. So, we applied for this grant to be able to kind of complete the center of town sidewalks outside of some of the state highways that take a little bit more work and money. But so we feel this will really tie kind of the whole center of town together and rehabilitate everything at once. So.
Okay. Questions on this?
I'll move it, Joe.
If not, okay, I'll again read the resolution. Resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM an increase in appropriations for fiscal '25 general fund budget from $144,382,612 to $144,582,612. This increase will be funded through an appropriation from fund balance and be used to supplement a grant for the town center sidewalk project. And you're moving that, Jeff?
Yes.
Seconded by Deborah. Is there discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next up is item number 10, which is to consider and if appropriate approve the following transfer and resolution from Finance Director pursuant to the Energy Performance Contract Proposal. And this is a request for moving $1,330,977 out of fund balance and moving it into the Municipal Facilities Fund. The NGO grants of $264,203 for capital infrastructure expenditures of $1,595,000. Jim, you want to
Yeah.
touch on that?
So the board may recall, at the last Board of Finance meeting, we had a presentation on the performance contracting, and we had mentioned that, this was something that we had done, I think, around 2017 or 2018, and we were looking at doing a smaller performance contract. You heard a presentation from the vendor, you heard a presentation from General Government Buildings, our volunteer member of the Clean Energy Task Force, as well as our sustainability manager. The reason we did it in two steps is, one, recognizing that many of the board members weren't here when we did the performance contracting the last time. And so we wanted the board to hear a presentation and see if it was something that they would be looking to doing again. At that point, while it was presented and some of the backup talked about a tax-exempt lease, which is typically the way a lot of these are financed, I had mentioned at the time in my letter that the recommendation would be to fund this out of fund balance. The $264,000 roughly in grants, listed as NGO, non-governmental organizations, is because those would actually come from like the utilities and stuff.
Okay, so we had that presentation at the last meeting. Jim has been kind enough to also enclose a copy of the August communication that goes over the projects. Questions on this from the board? Jamie, any comments on this? You're supportive of this contract moving forward?
Yeah, yes, certainly. I mean, I think it's a strategy we've used in the past, although it's a little bit of a smaller project, but it allows us to accomplish some capital improvements with essentially a guaranteed payback or cost deference through utilities, and it's a turnkey project, so I'm supportive of this.
Okay. And as Jim pointed out, he was recommending that we allocate this from fund balance as he outlined in the last meeting, so I'll read the resolution. And before I do that, I just want to comment, John, we'll get you back up here to do number 12 after this one, all right? Okay. Sorry about that. I just forgot about it. So the resolution is resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM an increase in appropriation of the fiscal 2025 general fund budget from $144,582,612 to $145,913,589. This increase will be funded through an appropriation from fund balance and will be used in combination with utility rebates to fund a performance contract for lighting and building projects at selected town properties.
I'll move it, Joe.
Okay, Jeff is moving this.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Yvette. Is there discussion, conversation? We're good? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I'm going to pull back John so that we can just wrap up on the engineering piece, and then we'll bring the Board of Ed up. Sorry about that, John. So we're going to just look at number 12. I had intended to do this before I jumped sequentially on the agenda. Number 12 is to consider and, if appropriate, approve the following transfer from the Finance Director pursuant to the Meadow Street Boardwalk improvements. And Meadow Street Boardwalk, $6,100,000. This project will be funded largely through the state local transportation capital improvement program. Under the program, the town will fund the design and the state will cover the cost of construction. If I'm not mistaken, the local share is $100,000.
Correct. Yep.
And so we're looking to move $100,000 from contingency for fiscal '25, again, to the infrastructure enhancement fund. So recognizing a revenue of $100,000 for transfer in and miscellaneous state grants of $6 million for an expenditure authorization of $6,100,000. You want to provide an update on that, John?
Sure. So this project was actually brought forward to our department from a local resident that had an interest in designing this boardwalk for the town. So through his efforts, he did create some plans that were substantial enough to get a DEP permit. I believe Army Corps is taking its time, but he doesn't feel like there will be an issue getting an Army Corps permit. So once we actually found we got over that hurdle with permitting, we did bring this to the state as part of the Lot SIP program. We weren't sure if this would be an eligible project under the Lot SIP program because it typically, they're usually focused on roadways. However, they have in the past at least funded one other boardwalk project in the state that we were aware of. So we did bring it to them, and they did agree that it would be an eligible project. So it would be eligible, again, like Main Street, that 100% of eligible construction costs would be paid through this grant program. At this point, we feel $100,000 would be enough to bring on structural engineer and design engineer to complete the engineering for this. We did have some money set aside through ARPA in the past to bring a structural engineer on board to create kind of these preliminary plans, but we ran out of time with ARPA, so we gave that money back to the town, the coffers, to redistribute. But so this is ready to move forward to final design and get all the approvals through the state to construct. So this, anyone who's unaware with this project, it would be an 8-foot wide timber boardwalk between Indian Neck Avenue and Montauk, South Montauk, just south of the railroad tracks along the river there. So be a great asset, I think, for the town.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was in, actually, I think in Marlborough, Massachusetts the other day, and they had a pretty extensive boardwalk going through a reservoir, like almost, probably 20, 30 feet out in the water, too. It was pretty impressive. A lot of people on it, too.
Yeah, I think this will be a very popular, yeah.
Questions from John on this?
John, what do you think the timeline is? I know you've got the Army Corps approval outstanding. Any ideas to a timeline on that?
I think throughout the winter, we would try to get the engineering done and then bring it back to the state. Of course, they're going to have their comments, being that they're funding the project. And then you'd start running into the environmental concerns of timing, of when we could be in the water doing the work. So that part I'm not quite sure of at this point. I think we need to wait for Army Corps to come back to us and give us their comments, if any, and try to figure out what time of the season we would be allowed to be in the water to work. And then you got your bidding schedules and bid reviews and things like that. So, I mean, you're probably not looking 2026. It may be in 2027. It may be a winter project between 26 and 27 due to whatever environmental concerns there might be. Most of the time, they do like to see the construction in the water kind of in those colder months because you have less activity as far as both people and, aquatic activity. So, yeah. I would guess somewhere winter 26 into 27 sometime. Don't hold me to that. Nobody hold me to that.
All right, other questions?
Joe, if I can butt in, what about maintaining it?
The maintaining of it, maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, once it's constructed, it would fall on the town.
It'd be town responsibility?
It would be a town responsibility, yep. And as far as DOT funding these projects, they want to see a 20-year life. So I think...
This is steel and wood?
It would be all timber. You get steel fasteners, but...
Okay.
Yep.
It's all timber?
All timber. We are looking at different materials as far as, since this is a sizable boardwalk, it's a lot of wood, right? So we are looking at maybe some more sustainable materials, like bamboo is one of the options thrown out as far as the decking and things like that go, just because of the amount.
It's over 2,000 square linear feet, right?
Yeah, it's
2,100.
It's a lot of trees, so
right.
We are taking that approach to see, would it make more sense to do that, and then the lifespan of those materials. That's something we're looking into as we go to final design.
Okay. Other questions? Somebody want to move it?
I'll move it.
Moved by Jeff, seconded by Harry. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck. John,
thank you all.
you're all set. Thank you. All right, we're going back to number 11, which is to consider and if appropriate approve the following transfers for resolution from the finance director to fund a Board of Education feasibility study. And it would be from, for $150,000, moving out of fund balance into the capital projects fund of $150,000, authorizing the expenditure of the feasibility study. Welcome, Blaise and Christopher.
Oh, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm going to let Blaise take the lead on the conversation.
Sure.
Hi. Okay. Hey, everybody. How's it going? So the request from the Board of Ed on September 17th, the board voted to request $150,000, and this is really as a result of the next phase of master plan. And so there's kind of a few different tracks going from that master plan, this being the one focusing on the elementary infrastructure. So after the master plan essentially concluded, closing Sliney and expanding and renovating, doing two major projects for Murphy and Tisco, we would propose this feasibility funding to do two things, and ed specifications to do two things. One, we really need to do true true feasibility. So we need to do an analysis on those sites with those constraints. We know that there's some wetland constraints and tight properties. So can the buildings take the capacity of expanded size, especially in the light that now in June, the state really incentivized the move for pre-K to expand pre-K. And so there is now a 15% bonus on each building project for the whole entire building if you're putting pre-K in there as well. So we moved pre-K to Indian Neck. If we move it and kind of expand it in Murphy and Tisco, we can take those project reimbursement rates from about 37% up by right another 15%, and with a little special ed bonus that would eligibly expand to about another 2%. We're approaching close to, between 53 and 55% as of right. So those are fairly substantial moves to make and kind of change the game a little bit, but we need to do feasibility on both of those sites, as well as, addressing things like transportation, bell schedules, traffic flows. And then as part of any grant, state grant application, the board has to develop educational specifications for both of those projects. So we would probably, with the scope of these, you typically engage professionals who, specialize in developing ed specs, and finally do a little bit of proof of concept design drawing and get an opinion of probable cost estimate. That's also required for your school construction grant, and it would allow for a more accurate appropriation request. This approach, sort of in deep coordination with the town, allows the project to continue to move forward. I haven't opened this if you want it. Allow the town to move forward, and the Board of Ed to move forward on this critical project, but would let us maximize potential state reimbursement and give us some breathing room to really get some better analysis, do some critical movement, let the board make a lot of critical decisions before financing, and then maybe appropriately fund a major project at a more feasible timeline. So that's
the request.
That's the request. If you need any more, Jim, if you want to chime in, that would be great.
I think you presented it very fairly and very accurately. I would just add, as but being a member of the committee, as Josh pointed out, and Joe, you were a member of the committee as well as Chris, Blaise, and Jamie, is that when we first were going down this road, we were looking to see, what sort of an approach might work for the town. And, a couple things that we said had to really fall into place. One was that the tax exemption for municipal debt had to stay in place, which that's already been decided with the one big beautiful bill. The other is that, we would need to focus on the elementary schools and then kind of still address issues with the high school, but not of a major renovation, and we did talk at length about that. And then the other is trying to get a reimbursement rate that could basically kind of fall into where our target numbers were. And so Blaise had mentioned about the special ed, so that popped us from 37 to say 52%. And then also, we felt that we needed to pursue getting a higher reimbursement rate, as some communities have through the implementer process. But in order to kind of really move forward, the need for the feasibility study had to happen, and the feasibility study would need a funding source. And the thought was to start that on a path prior to next year's capital budget. And so really the only way to do that is to appropriate from the town's general fund, which is something that was my recommendation. That this is the ask of $150,000. They've discussed the scope of it. My piece, certainly familiar with the scope, although not as intimately from the committee, was really to say, okay, in order for the community to move forward, this is one piece of it. So we're kind of addressing the strategic issue with the elementary schools, and then we'll also be looking at putting together a package for some improvements at the high school as well. That's not, there's nothing for the board to act on tonight's meeting, but that also is something that would be looking to put in place, say at the October Board of Finance meeting, or at least start that process.
Thanks, Jim. Questions from the board on this? If not, I'll read the proposed resolution. Resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM an increase in appropriations for fiscal 25 general fund from $145,913,589 to $146,063,589. This increase will be funded through an appropriation from fund balance and will be to fund studies related to the BOE's master plan.
I'll move it, Joe.
Moved by Jeff.
I'll second.
Seconded by Deborah. Is there discussion? Yvette, any questions?
No, sir.
Hey, Joe, just real quick.
Okay.
I mean,
Jim?
one thing I would just ask everybody to also focus on is the memo. I mentioned about, this would address the elementary schools, but, the Board of Ed is also outlining what some of the next steps are. And, some of that involves some things, as I mentioned, which will be coming back in October for the high school. I think it's also important to note that, the Board of Ed would also be looking at non-priority grants for some of these items. And of course, the thing that everybody recalls from last spring is also we need to address an appropriation for the roof at the high school. So that there's really two pieces to this. The one before you tonight is the feasibility piece for the elementary schools. But as we look ahead to the next meeting, we're basically looking at the high school roof and packaging that with some other improvements at the high school. And I think, Chris, to echo some of your concerns, that was one of the concerns, I think, that you had. And I think for those members that toured the facility tour and others, I think that their high school was also something that, we would have to continue to maintain and continue to invest in until a project at the high school might be considered. But certainly anything that the board is contemplating, as I understand it, would not in any way take away with any future plans for the high school, because that would probably be, 2030 something when you might do the high school-ish. So I just want to underscore that. I think it was good information, which is in the letter. It's stuff that we've talked about. So really, by way of information, I know you guys have a copy of the letter, but for the public that might be watching, I think it's important for them to know that there is a multiple-step plan in process. So.
Right. Thanks, Jim. And so maybe a little more clarity on that would be this request is for $150,000, but the things that Jim just mentioned are going to exceed $10 million.
Yes.
So there's a little difference in what the board will be looking at, this board will be looking at in order to take care of the roof and some of your other critical needs. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the three kind of tracks that are lined in the memo that are good to go through too for the purposes of what you're voting on, even today, would be, so the 150 is for the elementary, that's for the study, the analysis, engineering, and architectural services. What we're doing right now is for the high school, we already had the plan on the roof kind of coming back for the fall to finish so that we could go out to bid and do the rest of the roof and the skylight system. If we were going out to a project of that scale, we began to crosswalk the most critical systems in the master plan at the high school. So really just life safety. So the fire alarm was rated in poor condition and needs replacement. There's some sections of flooring that were rated in very poor condition, some critical plumbing that were in poor condition. And you can make some very small targeted investments leveraged with the roof project, and also potentially if you're mobilizing a building committee for a non-priority grant. So we know the roof already from last year was around, will be another about $7.5 million. But we know that that's 37% about eligible for reimbursement if there's a building committee already up and running. Some of those other projects too, potentially, and some targeted HVAC are also eligible for 37% reimbursement. So even though they're smaller, let's say an HVAC project targeted in one wing of the school that is no longer working, we could potentially, though, already have a building committee mobilized and get 37% back on those elements. Instead of presenting that this month, we're just finalizing. We brought in some additional engineers and as well as life safety, our life safety systems expert, to go through the building and just make sure that we're making those investments. But with targeted investment, we can really extend the life of the structure in the most critical areas until it's slated for further sort of programmatic revisioning, which is more, as Jim mentioned, more of like a 2038 timeline.
Ties back to the master plan.
And then the final piece, the final major mechanical system that was failing that's in that memo that was outlined as kind of lane number 3 is the overall the cogeneration plant, which is currently in a state of failure. We actually had no air conditioning today there because it wasn't working, and we have a tech kind of running that. Anyone that was on the committee, this is sort of repetitive, but we have a tech kind of treating that every twice a week manually. That kind of links up with our overall HVAC system. HVAC systems are now non-priority grant eligible as well, and so as part of fiscal 27, that was really 1, 2, 3. That was track 3. By the time we get to there, that really needs some more analysis. So that's why that's not included with the appropriation request that's coming next month, because that one, the one that's coming in October, it's like the roof is leaking, the fire alarm's not working, so they're a little more straightforward. Cogen, it's unlikely that we would replace the system in kind nowadays. So there's consideration once the roof's done. We're going to scale up with solar. You might look at other power systems. We might replace, with more of a traditional system that's smaller in size if you're leveraging solar on the building. So there's some extra analysis that we're doing. We also met with someone from the Conservation Commission that was recommended to us. Not conservation, but energy management, about battery storage on site, potentially. So if we're leveraging all of those systems, that's kind of why that one makes a little more sense to not go by October, because that one has a lot more implications with it. So that's why those kind of 3 lanes line up that way. And I didn't know if I wanted to be
That's
too
fine.
repetitive, but thanks, Jim.
That's fine. I just figured I'd let the board know there's another request coming down the pike, so.
Joe, I got a question.
Sure.
The skylights at the school, at the high school, didn't we fix them or do some repairs this summer to some of the ones that were leaking?
Yeah, so the first part of the bonding package, the project we did this summer, we ended up with Massey Glass. They did an incredible job. They were there very fast. We did just the triangular portions of the skylights.
Okay.
And so when you're in the commons, there's also walls, all skylight walls. Those were not replaced. So they just were able to, with the timing when we came in February, March, By the time we went out to bid and they had everything procured, they actually didn't get in there until mid-August. And then they just mobilized the crew for about 7 days straight and replaced just the triangular portion. So now this is the walls and any of the adjacent kind of skylight wall systems as well.
So the majority of the leaking has been taken care of except for the sidewalls?
Yep, a lot of the leaking has been taken care of in the commons. We also, if you recall, the Board of Selectmen had approved a waiver for a roofing company last in '24. We also did some emergency repairs in the worst section of the roof for about $107,000. So between that and part of the skylights, we've stopped. There's not like water flowing in anymore. If you've seen the video that our facilities director Brendan had, where it was just soaking in, and we have a stop on that, but that's a temporary patch on the roof. We've done a lot of analysis on, I think, the roof. We've had Antonazzi, we've had Michael Horton on there, we've had Tecton, our architects from the master plan separately. All three have gone through. It's a fairly complex roofing system because of over the years, there's 22 different roofing systems in there, 17 of which are beyond their useful life or at a failed state. And so this project would really just put everything to. The nice thing would put them all back in on one slate with one contractor, fresh at one time. And with the way that we were able to do the skylights, the wall portion of the skylights, we can actually loop in, if we do the roof project, for reimbursement, so we can get 37% reimbursement on the skylight portion as well.
Thank you for the update.
That's good, okay. With that, I will, I think I did, we're in discussion, so we voted some.
Right.
Any other discussion?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Good luck, and we'll see you next month.
We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Okay, going on to item number 13. Consider and if appropriate, approve request from the Finance Director for fiscal '25 budget from contingency to overtime, $26,485. Jim has sent us a memo with regards to the reason for this request. Jim, you want to hit the high spots on this one?
Yeah, basically, this overtime was for Catherine, the Assistant Finance Director. Per her contract, she is eligible for either comp time or overtime. If the comp time can't be used, she gets paid out overtime. And essentially, this outlines some of the tasks. I know for the group that met with the auditors earlier in the night, some of these have been addressed here, and this is because of the work that Catherine did. She primarily focused on a couple areas. One is the Board of Education, and two is the tax office. And the Board of Ed did reimburse us for some of the overtime, which we took in as a revenue. And then the other thing, I think, Joe, you may remember this, but years ago, I'll just say when we used to have Brian. Mm-hmm. So Brian really was not available to us in the past year, and so basically, Catherine was kind of on her own with that area. Also, we've had a lot of new staff come to the town in different positions, and Catherine spends training on that. Overall, the work of the finance department, continues to grow, and the demands on it continue to grow. We were waiting for the audit to come out, and we know that we need additional help in the finance department, and we did put some money in contingency, but we still haven't developed a job description or worked with Margaret or any of the other pieces to this. But, similar to other departments over the years, when engineering needed more help, they added a position. We added a position in the rec department, I think, for a theater camp a few years ago, and obviously the police and fire, in order to improve their response time and improve their services. They've added positions, and in finance, we've sort of, a lot of it, we struggle between the two of us, trying to get some of these things done and some of the new standards. And obviously, the town is very active in financial areas. We issue bonds regularly and do other things. So I think that that's something to consider certainly down the road, possibly later this fiscal year. And so this $26,045 is coming out of contingency. You have some other items on your agenda that also came out of contingency. You just approved one for Meadow Street. Jamie has one for the lease fund. So the balance in contingency after tonight will be about $19,153.
Thanks, Jim. Questions on this transfer? $26,485.
I'll move it.
Moved by Jeff.
Second?
Second by Harry. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Item number 14 is to consider and if appropriate, approve a budget request from the Director of Human Resources for fiscal 26 pursuant to the approval of Supervisor's Union contract, and it'd be from contingency $77,613, going into finance, wages $8,500, assessor $5,500, inland wetlands $13,240, building $8,500, public works $11,071, solid waste $6,500, engineering $8,500, recreation $5,500, Willoughby Wallace $5,500, and accrued payroll for finance would be $33, assessor $22, inland wetlands $51, building $33, public works $43, solid waste $25, engineering $33, recreation $22, Willoughby Wallace $22, and a transfer out to animal control of $45.18 for a total of $77,613. There'd be a corresponding resolution for a transfer in of $45.18 into the animal control, and authorization to spend of $4,500 along with the $18 for accrued wages. Margaret, welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
Anything you'd like to add on this?
Sure. Just as a refresh, we have about 27 supervisory and managerial positions in the town, including police and fire in those numbers. 10 of those are in this union, supervisory union. And we went through negotiations with their representatives, and based on those negotiations, this is what we're requesting for this year and for 2 more years after, the 2.75% increase for both years following this year.
Excuse me a second. 2.75 for each year of the 3 years?
Not this year. This year is more.
Oh.
Then, because we included a retention adjustment in the discussions we had with the negotiations. So the amount of money that we are requesting for this year is so noted on the request for the transfer request, and then the contract for this is available to anyone who's interested in reading it on our website.
Okay. Questions from Margaret on this? If not, I'll read the proposed resolution. Recommends that the RTM transfer out of $45.18 to animal control to fund salary changes pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement for union supervisors. Transfer increase the fiscal 26 budget for animal control from $507,538 to $512,056, along with the other transfers that I read. Moved by Harry.
Second.
Second by Jeff. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is number 15. Again, for fiscal 26. From contingency, $40,413. And to executive, this is for wages and salaries for all of these various departments. Executive, $1,675, finance, $4,039, tax collector, $3,292, town clerk, $760. IT, 2817, HR, 4889, police, $7,083, fire, 6715, public works, 2,969, and recreation and seniors, 2870, accrued payroll, likewise for various departments, $7 for executive, $16 for finance, $13 for tax collector, $10 for town clerk, IT $11, $19 for HR, police $28, fire $26, public works $12, recreation $12, excuse me, transfer out to sewer fund $31.50, and transfer out to human services fund $53.27, for a total of $40,413, and corresponding with that to be transferred into $31.50 into the sewer utility fund, and authorization to expend the wages and salaries at $31.37 and accrued payroll $13 for $31.50. Margaret, would you like to expand on this a little bit?
I think Jamie is going to take the lead on this.
Jamie?
Sure, Joe, thanks. So as Margaret was mentioning about the number of employees that are supervisors or in a managerial role, we have this list here is those who are unaffiliated. You may recall, just as you just approved the transfer for the supervisor's contract, which was approved last month by the RTM. That included an adjustment in salaries, as well as this board may recall with two previous contracts, we included a retention adjustment. Kind of evaluating these positions, where we are in the market, and our really desire to retain experienced these professionals. I thought it was appropriate to come to the board and seek a retention adjustment for those who are unaffiliated. So it's a 2.5% increase for these individuals for this year. Again, as I noted, and you're probably aware, just even watching the headlines, those who are going into municipal government, it's harder and harder to find people. You see many municipalities are coming up with different strategies and implementing different measures to retain employees, such as hybrid working, remote working, 4-day work weeks, as well as, adjustments in salaries. So kind of evaluating where we are, what we've done with other bargaining units, I felt the value that this group of unaffiliated bring to the town and providing the programs and services to our residents, I thought the 2.5% was a fair and equitable ask.
Thanks, Jamie. Questions from the board on this? That I'll finish reading. What's that, Harry?
Shall I move the resolution as presented in the agenda? Or do you want to read it?
Yeah, I should probably read it, because we've got two more to go here. So, resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM a transfer out of $31.50 to the sewer utility fund for fund salary changes for exempt management supervisory level unaffiliated positions. Transfer will increase the fiscal year 26 budget of the sewer utility fund from $5,159,306 to $5,162,456. And then along with that, there's the human services transfers in of $53.27 and respective expenditures of $53.27 to balance that. And the resolution that goes with that one is the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM transfer out of $53.27 to Human Services Fund. The fund salary changes for exempt management and supervisory level unaffiliated positions. This transfer will increase the fiscal 26 budget for Human Services Fund from $2,092,494 to $2,097,821. So those two resolutions, along with the other transfers within the general fund is the request from Margaret, and I'll entertain a motion to move that.
So moved.
Moved by Harry,
I'll second it.
seconded by Jeff. Other questions, discussion? Yvette, you're all set?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Okay. Number 16 is to consider and if appropriate, approve a transfer from the first selectman for a salary adjustment to Director of Planning, Conservation and Development for fiscal '26 from contingency $6,682 into salaries and wages, P&Z $66.56, and accrued payroll $26 for a total of $66.82. Jamie?
Yeah, sure, Joe. So this position was the formerly titled Director of Planning and Zoning, which was a member of the Supervisors Union. During negotiations, it was agreed to remove that position from the union. So therefore, they didn't get an increase in the salary. So this is just going back and providing the annual increase that was given to unaffiliated of 2.75% at the July 1, as well as the retention adjustment that we just spoke of.
Got it.
So I just carved this out separately just to show that it was, the numbers reflected of those two adjustments because of the removal from this position from the union.
Okay.
Amy, what's the salary now for that position?
The salary will be 131,795, 15 cents.
I'll move the request.
Moved by Harry,
I'll second it.
seconded by Jeff. Is there discussion?
Just to clarify, Harry, that's after the adjustment.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to.
Okay, additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Take care. Okay. Thank you, Yvette. All right, now item number 17 is to consider and if appropriate, approve a transfer request from the first selectman for supplemental appropriation into the lease fund for fiscal '26 from contingency $300,000 into transfer out lease fund for the town. Jamie?
Okay. So as the board is aware, the town has a lease fund, which we utilize to cover the rental expenses, primarily for the Department of Public Works facility. Recently, with this current fiscal year, the department was notified, or we relocated to another location, which I know that lease agreement came before this board for recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. In evaluating those terms and of that lease, in discussion with the finance director, thought, it would be appropriate to supplement that fund of $300,000 out of contingency. Supplementing that will allow the town to essentially continue to fund the fund through the general budget at a current level of which we have put in about $170,000, I believe.
Yeah.
So looking to kind of smooth out the budget, avoid a spike. We thought this ask was appropriate.
Okay. Questions from Jamie or Jim on this?
Just trying to keep things easy for the next administration,
Okay. Questions?
I'll move it, Joe.
Moved by Jeff.
I'll second.
Second it.
Seconded by Yvette. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anything else we need to go over? We good? Okay, so with no other business to come before the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
Moved and seconded by Harry. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.